Now let's discuss the issue further with Michael Maloof, a former senior security policy analyst at the Pentagon. Thanks for joining us today, sir. What could another American intervention mean for Iraq?
Well, American intervention will have to be very, very selective, and it's almost going to be it could almost be inevitable because of the intentions of ISIS. ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, is actually the Islamic State of Iraq and the Sham. The Sham is Greater Syria. Greater Syria incorporates all of the Levant and into Jordan. And there's some indication that if they can sweep through Iraq, they're going to go into Jordan, and you're going to have spin-offs that would be created. So it's a major policy decision now on whether or not there's going to be any U.S. intervention at this point to try and trip them up and cause them to and try to stymie their forward progress, which is basically a blitzkrieg. It's unheard of these days. So there's some weighty decisions that are going to have to be made, but in order to do that, the intelligence has got to be pinpoint accurate, and you've got to find them. I mean, I've noticed the pictures of them traveling in caravans in the open, and you wonder, well, why hasn't anyone done anything about it? But at the same time, they've got some very smart military planners and operators there, and they can adjust. So they can make it much more difficult for us to stop them, or anybody to stop them, and certainly the Iraqi government's having a hard time.
Yeah, and we're also hearing increasingly about the U.S. mulling air attacks, but U.S. military intelligence is reportedly unable to pinpoint these clear targets. Is air power going to be useful in this case?
It can be, because these guys travel over widespread areas. They're on the move, but once they get into a particular area, it's going to be extraordinarily difficult to flesh them out, because then they're mingling in with the civilian population, and that makes it far more difficult, which inevitably means that you would have to have boots on the ground, and the U.S. isn't going to be doing that. So it's going to be up to the Iraqi government to put those boots in the area on the ground, and certainly the United States could send in advisors and trainers, and that's a possibility as well.
You know, is this conflict in any way really a reaction to the Maliki government's policies, do you believe, sir?
I think it's part and parcel. Yeah, it's certainly ISIS in Iraq right now is not just foreign fighters and what have you. A lot of it are some old Saddam Hussein groups. Certainly people who worked for him, who are all Sunnis and who joined on to ISIS. There are a lot of elements and a lot of Islamic groups that are joining ISIS inside Iraq, and so they're going to be trying to carve out for their own purposes. And of course, al-Maliki, the prime minister, who's Shia, is resisting any efforts to change his government to try to bring in more Sunnis into the government and make it more representative. But it may be too little, too late already.
Former security policy analyst at the Pentagon, Michael Maloof, we thank you for your time today, sir.